Welcome, one and all, friends. We have tried to tidy through this as sharp as we can, so we're going to go ahead and give you an idea of what should be coming up. Yes, in this here YouTube Masterclass. One thing you can do is pick up credits from the registrar at Coursera, Coursera. And if you go to Coursera, we're giving units for seniors at Harvard. We're giving them credits. If you'd like to take a program at Harvard or USC, it wouldn't work. But at Calarts, you might be able to redeem quite a bit of credits from this program. So if you look into why we're shining the light on Star Wars and why we continue to shine the light on Star Wars, and what is it that we're stuck with Star Wars? Well, let's start here, even though this isn't the beginning, even chronologically, or is it? Because chronologically doesn't mean anything except what came before, and though this came between part 3 and part 4. Now remember, we're dealing with Star Wars. Star Wars is Lucas and Disney. Lucas and Disney like to change their films, like to do weird things to their films. They like to put out ultimate other copies in Belgium. Belgium has dragons in it. Belgium, they get nailed to the cross. Belgium, all the droids get killed. Belgium is where they invent the clones. Now, that's just the Belgian. Sorry, I had to throw you off there. That's just the Belgian version of Star Wars. Now, no one will believe you that all of these places even exist, or do exist, or not exist, or once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, which kind of means like before we were around, so we just have to take your word for it, which means there are preserved copies of our memories from somewhere in the past, even if they weren't an AI robot. And a long, long way away. That means it's somewhere that someday someone might find on a map, and then they'll save the whole colony of the universe, which everybody knows Star Wars, find another place off the map and save everybody in the hot zone universe. So Rogue One is in fact where they die forgetting the plans. Almost everybody, it's a tragedy. It's like a Willamook. It's like, okay, here I'm going in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere, with no lightsaber, by the way, just a weird zap gun. Have to talk diplomacy to half the town. Boring stuff happens with a weird exit out of the campground. And furthermore, the last thing that happens is they get in a wild battle in outer space, and it goes on and on and on, and it's so cool to watch. And that's when they get in to the machinery, barely in the nick of time, get the code to the shield. And in between this, there's all kinds of existential lines. And one thing I like about existential lines is the post-modernity of Star Wars is so wonderful that in this movie it's referenced that they get all those secret paradigms that the map makers didn't die in vain is good. Because now we're actually going to start where the first movie starts, which is not to say that Rogue One didn't come after it in theaters. That there's a maze through Star Wars that has to be kind of walked through and seen through, my friends on Coursera. Look at these artworks that tangle us back to the moment that we were going to go first. And this is not even it. So we can't go first here. We have to go first at the beginning of the book. And now we're back to a very strange picture. Because this picture it looks like this time, and I told you it would differ than that first long take that was wrong. Now it looks like he's sitting on a kind of pod motorcycle thing filled with lasers and bombs, but there's also tabs like he could push a button and cause his flame to expand. And then look over here, it's just mountainous mountainway. Well, that doesn't look like Tatooine. And I thought when they landed on Tatooine, there weren't any big built-up fortresses that no one knew about. Is it Jabba's palace? I mean, where is he? And he can't be that far in the desert. And we look in the background and we see these oil paints and this kind of shadow fortress of a kind of skull-looking shadow. And then we see the heinous, reprehensible fact that I have that disc too. Now, on the next journey through Star Wars, I always end up in this room and something goes wrong, but let's see. We've got plenty of time for Star Wars. We're not talking too fast or too slow. We see the horizon in the background. We see everything in paint. We see moving these cameras make the characters move as though they're animated. You can see them kind of walking around. Right now, it's probably how they feel inside. They feel that inside because they can't escape. They just look like that because the AI is making it doing it. But if you walked him forward, he couldn't go any further because he's got his ring on. It's Anakin Skywalker. And then next thing you know, here is the banister or a droid or a watchman or anything. But she, Natalie Portman as Padme, really does not mind having the last love of Earth be with him. And so if they could be with him, they would do so forever as always. And you can't really see the droids, it's just my disc. But this part of the movie kind of shows that she's looking one way and he's looking into the future. And he's already become this kind of active proto-fascist in terms of getting rid of those which are not necessary for the kingdom of Star Wars. You know, one thing that I find interesting about Star Wars is nobody in the movie, I'm pretty sure, uses the word Star Wars. Like most movies, when you go all the way through them, they use the movie Star Wars because that's the movie they're in. But I don't really remember if anyone even knew they were in a movie called Star Wars. I mean, they kind of said you're in a movie, and then when it became Star Wars, you're like, I swear that's me, and I swear that isn't me. Copy always arrives on your doorstep saying, it's not you, but your parts were good too. Might have used them in a different one that's not out yet. Just for prank's sake, because George Lucas is the king of pranks. Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford are back now at episode 4. So if you see this drive to fly down a hallway on a short of strings while Obi-Wan, whose hair looks longer there, and then Anakin Skywalker, who looks in a different costume, it's like the storyboard and then the actual sketch artist, as it was over here with the sketch artist only, but a storyboard as well for the sketch artist. And I don't want to know how they did that one. That scares me. I never knew that, no, we won't talk about that. This is interesting because it looks like Anakin's got something on his face, but it could just be the corner of the mind. Now, if this is the corner pocket of the mind where you know somebody loses, it probably wasn't Obi-Wan, and this is the only spoiler I'm giving you, is Obi-Wan does not lose in any of the Star Wars movies, and Anakin does. But that Anakin becomes Darth Vader even by the time of this one doesn't give them the smirky faces to say, hey guys, we're going to be in a sci-fi movie. This is getting good. We could be in a sci-fi movie. Count us in. And that they're all looking Hollywood out. They're all looking Hollywood out. And everybody thinks they're nice dudes. They're nice people. And really, they blow up everything in sight that's evil. And they kill evil. And they take all evil down. And that's what their job is, taking evil down. They're the original Star Wars, and George Lucas directed the 4 we just talked about. Now, this is Empire Strikes Back and what you got to know. And by the way, one last surmise on style. The visuals are so profound that it'll leave you flying around that roller coaster of action-adventure. They are sci-fi fantasy. They're also action-adventure. It's a fun line between when you go down into the grass chute and have to fight the animal. Fighting ships in outer space is done so meticulously, people would actually think it has before it hasn't. There's flights of ships that come in like the video game, flights more like the video game, and everybody's shooting at each other like crazy throughout the force field, and force fields barely get blown up before they regenerate. So now all the firepower is on that, and I'm just talking about the movie and how real they make it, and how real they make the Muppet things and all of it, and the CGI is real, and digital revolution belongs here, because look, the digital revolution didn't ruin anything, it just enhanced and upgraded everything. And I think if we all know our furthest back films, silent films, need re-upgraded, that's because digital came along so it could do it. That it could do it without having to upgrade it. I'm not bagging on episode 4 because Lucas digitally upgraded everything before he released it back into episode 1, which why he started it 4 through 5 through 6, and then 1, 2, 3 back to 7. Sounds some kind of sadistic. Sounds some kind of anyway. Full Metal Jacket much. Now, one of the things you've got to understand about the cinematography of these films is they're very symmetrical, and they're very profound, and they're hierarchical in the sense that even he's lower than everyone. Angle always sees him higher. We could take the angle from down here, and now we're looking below him, but he still looks small. Doesn't matter how you look, it's how you're perceived. And he's 900-year-old Jedi, and we saw him in the other movies. Empire Strikes Back, he's just getting back together. Return of the Jedi, he's starting to die. But that Yoda is seen in 1, 2, and 3 is also true. Because in part 1, he's on the Jedi Council. Part 2, he goes ravishing around with his lightsaber, especially fighting Count Dooku. And then by episode 3, he's pretty much fighting everything in sight, which is not necessarily, even though it's kind of hinted in the Jedi path, it's not necessarily because he's diminishing or anything. For all we know, he's getting taller, because in The Mandalorian, they show a puppet that's kind of small, and it would only grow to about twice Yoda's height, so that he was taken down 2 notches from survivability essays that he almost didn't scram from, like the Colosseum in episode 3. But why I didn't go through a charge march of all the plot of the film, I would if I could say that episode 2 is the one where they buy clones so they can defend themselves against the Imperial Army. And we're talking episode 2 is the Attack of the Clones, where they have those high-speed chases, and they go around looking for things that can see into their mind about how they don't want each other to die. So he's about to die for the dark side, and he sees what's in her mind. And I'm thinking, look at how symmetrical this picture is, and how he looks blocked off from him, and she looks kind of in pity, but I want you back, but do I? And we do this to realize the whole film, like when they're taken to the Colosseum where Yoda almost dies and Mace Windu almost dies, when they're taken to the Colosseum, they're basically pronouncing their unheralded love for each other. They can't stop loving each other. And so they get married. Secretly, this is the secret marriage aftermath. But all through the episode, they're getting to know each other. No, he's not the same kid from 7 years before in episode 1, and this is episode 2, so that kid must have gone to some time portal, because he would have had to have aged 11 years to be as old as Hayden Christensen. And she would be in her 30s, but actresses never grow past age 25 anyway, so it's perfect Star Wars math. When I say it's perfect Star Wars, you just know everything about Star Wars is perfect. The lenses, the lighting, the leaning, the forwarding, the tracking shots, the button pushes from THX, the tracking shots from his race car movie. All the George Lucas elements are in these movies, and he is the one that has gone to the future with his past as he promised all of his children and made the final, most intense Star Wars films. But then what makes them even more intense is now we're back with Obi-Wan takes out uh, Obi-Wan does a lightning battle with Anakin Skywalker, but by Anakin Skywalker time by now, he's already in such a drift that he went to the dark side long before he ended up killing his own wife, Padme, or whatever. But see, the thing is they get in this confrontation, spoiler alert, where Samuel L. Jackson had just killed all these bugs, rugs, and thugs all over the galaxy, and comes back like he's usually doing. And he comes back to find out Anakin is not going to defend the Emperor. But the Emperor, at first, he says it's because he's not a good guy. He's an evil man. So Samuel L. Jackson takes him to show him, and he's like, trust me, I said that. But deep down, you might think he was luring him because he already turned into a demon in episode 2 when all the rest of that bad shit went down. Now, I'm not sorry to say that it's kind of wild to watch Anakin go wild, but every minute of the last 20 minutes of the last 2-hour film, you're sitting there going, so wait, you already knew that Anakin would win because not, and then you're thinking, no, you got it backwards. Obi-Wan Kenobi has got to be in the sequel, unless he's a ghost in that one. Because sometimes when he's a ghost, he gives more advice, and that may be why he let Darth Vader kill him anyway, but maybe not. It would be more heroic to lend your flesh to the cause. And now, we're back. So if you look carefully at these pictures, they don't look as scary. They look hopeful, adventurous, and by the time you get to Yoda practically waiting so long to get picked up after his last debacle in Revenge of the Sith when he played Coast Guard, they're throwing around big chairs at each other, him and the Emperor, and blowing up the Senate and the Congress. And it's not a scene I'm forgetting, it's a scene he was exiled till, which was about all the way through the previous film, which lasted in year time about 20. And then this one lasts a day or something, 15 days, something like that. Empire Strikes Back. And then you have Return of the Jedi. And the interesting things about picking these one-sheeters for my collection really makes me wonder if artists got into this and changed it with some kind of paper hologram, because I remembered seeing Return of the Jedi's picture as supposed to be the nice one, and Empire Strikes Back, which it all ends on a total carousel to madness out in the middle of the woods in space, and it's past Cloud Mountain where they talk to Lando Calrissian, and Han Solo has been shipping him everywhere through these 6 adventures to the middle of nowhere in his Millennium Falcon. His Chewie comes with him. By the time 3 is over, it gives this hint that no one's going to survive until we come back to episode 4, where they're gearing up with the Rogue One plans to go blow the planet. It gets a little confusing, and I have to tell it backwards and forwards to get it right. Listexic. Let's just go listexic. So at the end, they do in fact fight, except Darth, or Anakin, and his son, Luke, almost gets decimated to a pulp. The Emperor shows up, zaps them both. That is probably what pissed off Darth, and Darth throws himself with the help of his little friend, his son, and he goes down a pit. That blows up that ship. They get off. The dad's almost dead. Says he wants to be left behind. There's some ambiguity there. And next thing you know, the Ewoks, all his friends from part 4, and a couple of ghosts from even part 1. And you basically get to see them all, because see, Revenge of the Sith, that makes sense as a cover, because everybody's getting blown up, and everybody... Hang on. Hang on for 5 minutes. Can you hang on for 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I have to end this quick, so let's just go. Go, Spradlins, to the quickest talked about movies, but all I was going to say about that poster was what it did go with the sermonizing. And now we have the rise of Skywalker, and there's so many convolutions. I'm not going to describe the plot. They're the same things in the other Skywalker movies, except these are all made sense, because this is the 9th one. And let's go backwards. The 9th one really entails me that it's got every voice of every Star Wars character, every nuance of every Star Wars character, every I was there, you were there, and we were there concept. All the new cast, all the new adventures that lead them either through gambling and extortion and weird episodes with mummies. And really, if you look at these movies, they look like they're from a different count and class. But really, let me tell you, there's a good view in the critical decathlon. In Force Awakens, the droids come back to life. They all say they have a signal put on Luke Skywalker yet again, because we didn't know what happened to him. And then, in the next one, the Last Jedi, almost everybody gets destroyed trying to say they have a Jedi, which is her, but not until the 9th part. So she isn't even one. So boom, Luke Skywalker, almost dead, gets found by her. She sends him to the battle, and he blows it. Everything. He makes it seem like it's getting blown up, and then they escape, form a really good base, get all the Jedis they can trained. They get a bunch of good people on their side. They get the whole universe to rally against them. And no one ever knows if they beat the full-on Emperor or not, but they lived through it. They lived through the battle. So this should have been called Star Wars, You Never Got Me Down.